grew up in a situation where it was expected. I mean, there was no other way to do it. You had to be part of the community. For example, my father built a little cart with bicycle wheels and so forth, so that we could go and collect canned goods and so forth for Thanksgiving or for Halloween. We didn't go around in costumes in Halloween, and we did that on Thanksgiving. And you'd go to a door and say, anything for Thanksgiving? And that was the way it got started. So I've always been involved in philanthropic activities. And I got to know the Hartford Foundation because I was involved in a number of organizations that got grants from the foundation. And so I quickly discovered that the Hartford Foundation was one of the most creative organizations that I'd ever known.
Well, I'll just add, though, that we were somewhat spoiled because one of my friends of many years, and fortunately he's still around, was Bill Connolly. And of course, I knew Bill before he went to work for the foundation, but subsequently he went with them. So he introduced us and was quite a mover, as far as I was concerned, in promoting my interest in the foundation. He was great for the job, I thought, at the time. Getting through him a lot of the information for the earlier days of the foundation and all the work that it was doing, that was the thing that was a great influence for me. The salient event which made me realize how fortunate I was I was graduating from high school. And by the way, I had an older brother, and my father had said to him, yeah, you can go on to college. Now this is from a man who had been through the third grade only, but you pay for it yourself. And so what my brother did was to get acceptance at Cooper Union, which was in New York City and was free at the time, although I've just read that they're going to start charging tuition now. And when my turn, he was 3 years older than I. When my turn came along, my father said the same thing to me. So I was considering doing the same thing. And lo and behold, after I graduated from high school, I got this letter. And I was not aware of it at all. It came from Columbia University. And it said that I had been awarded a Pulitzer Scholarship. And Mr. Pulitzer, of course, had set up the School of Journalism at Columbia University, but also, he had established these Pulitzer Scholarships for New York City children, which consisted of free tuition at Columbia University, and also $250 a year. Now, I'd gotten a Regents Scholarship of $100 a year, so between the two of them, that was more money than I ever had in my life, and to date. So, how fortunate that was. So I was able to go to engineering school at Columbia University, free, unbelievable. And as I've grown older, I've certainly taken that to heart and tried to do things and establish situations to help other people. One of the things that we've done, incidentally, and Astrid will talk further about this, we've established a scholarship in our name, at her college, which to promote business entrepreneurship. Now, since I retired, which was now over 25 years ago, I spent all the time with an organization called SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives, where we counsel people going into business or in business with problems that we, or with our background, can help solve. And so what we have set up at her college is a scholarship in business entrepreneurship, and been able to contribute initial funds and subsequent funds each year for my IRA and so on and so forth.
when we moved to Suffield in 1956, we were initially told that we would be other than newcomers after the fourth generation. But we discovered that the very next day, one of the ladies came knocking on the door and said, "By the way, would you like to be treasurer of the League of Women Voters in town?" And that's the way it went. So one got to be involved in all of the organizations in town. I got to be, because of that, I got to be the token woman on a nominating committee. And this was for the legislature. And this was at first, the first year when the legislature would meet in annual sessions. And the previous gentleman from East Granby was not going to run again, and so they thought perhaps it was Suffield's turn to have this state representative. And we went through the voting list, and as I say, I was the token female on that committee. And Tom, Dick, and Harry, none of them could run because Tom had a new job, and Dick had a new secretary, and Harry, I don't know, bought a new business. None of them could run. So we went through the voting rolls, as you do, one after another. And finally, one of the gentlemen said, "Well, Astrid, what about you? Why don't you run?" Now, I had never been at the state capitol. But I had no excuses. Fred did a lot of traveling. We didn't have children. And so why not? So I did. And it was during the time that I was in the legislature that I got involved with a lot of issues. Some of them were environmental issues, and some of them were other kinds of issues. Charter Oak State College, for example, was something that I helped create, and it's wonderful. You know, here you have young folks who, whether they are handicapped or whether they have children and can't leave the house, but they can still get an education. And that was before computers, if you can imagine, because that was in 1972. So we've come a long way since then.
She put in 10 years there in the legislature, and could have gone on indefinitely, but one of the things that she decided is that that was enough. She had done her part, contributed as much as she could, and time to move on. In my case, I got involved with this Service Corps of Retired Executives, SCORE, and have been with it now I'm the senior member. I spent time as the chair of our Hartford chapter for 4 years. But it's been very interesting because it's kept me in contact with younger people who are largely, thinking of going into business. But I also spent time, since I was a retired engineer, working for my professional society, which is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers.
I have been most impressed with what the Hartford Foundation is doing, has been doing, and continues to do. They are, I think, the most creative family or community foundation that I've ever heard about. And the mere fact that if I'm correct, it's the 10th largest family foundation in the country, and certainly the greater Hartford area is not the 10th most wealthy area. So that the foundation has done quite a lot of good things right. And I say creative because the organizations that I'm involved with, whether it be Connecticut Landmarks or the Connecticut Forest and Park or even the Connecticut River Watershed Council, they have been able to get funding, even though some of them have facilities that are not in the greater Hartford region, in the 19-town district. But not only have they gotten funding, but it's the funding that really counts, that will help strengthen the organization. And I don't know of any other foundation that is that far-sighted and creative.
When we first contributed to the foundation and set up the gift annuities, etc., we said that what we were interested in was business entrepreneurship, to develop entrepreneurs in various businesses. And that's been, as I said, my interest going back to when I was, to some extent, an entrepreneur myself.
Yeah, some people's interests lie in child abuse or in spousal problems, housing. Our interests have really been more in terms of entrepreneurship, people who are interested in public policy, that kind of thing. Because I think that we need to make sure that people gain respect for their government. They have lost it because perhaps to some extent the media has spent so much time talking about the turkeys and forgetting about the good people, because good people are boring. But we talk about the turkeys and read about them, and so we think they're all a bunch of crooks. And that's not true. There are some very hardworking, well-meaning, well-adjusted folks who are in public service. For people who are interested in public policy, I think that, and a commitment to giving, I think that's also important to me. I think to both of us. I would suggest to follow your heart and spend time doing things for causes that you feel really strong about. And that would be the first suggestion. And then to make sure that your money, your wealth, or your whatever is spent by organizations that do what you care about. And in terms of the Hartford Foundation, that's certainly true in spades, because they are involved in all kinds of issues from A to Z. And so you can surely find something that they can do for organizations that you care about.
I would say to people, count your blessings. And if you do, you realize how fortunate you are, first to live in this country, and then considering all the things, good things that have happened to you through your childhood and upbringing. So having done that, having looked a little bit and aged a little bit, you'd realize that, by golly, you've had it good. Why not try to make it better for other people?